Good Sunday morning, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So this week is going to be interesting because we're going to be talking about the headlines that are in real estate, and it's going to be different because we don't have a guest. So you guys are my guests. I'm going to be asking you the questions on how you feel about some of the stories and headlines that have happened in real estate this week. It's been pretty exciting. Normally, real estate is probably one of the most boring things to talk about in the whole entire world, but there's some moving and shaking in the real estate world, and I'm excited to share it with you. I'm sure there's going to be some heated arguments about it, which is always makes for a fun live stream. But before we get started with that, I want to welcome the people that have just entered the chat. Art of Acrobats asked a very good question right here. It says, do you do private real estate consultations, and what is your best contact info? This is a serious inquiry. Yes, I do. My contact information is in the description of this video right here. You can email me at info@kristinasmallhorn.com. I almost gave you my old email address, which would have worked, but it's like the longest email address in the world. The other one's info@yourrealestatewhisperer.com, but that is like the longest email. It's much easier just to do info@kristinasmallhorn.com. All right. Martinez RE says nothing. So excited. Take your time, please. Do I talk too fast? I seem to talk too fast, don't I? Sorry, Clifford. Rebel Rousers Rebel Retro Rebel says, hi Kristina and Eddie from LA Corner, Washington. Red like wine. Long time watcher. Kristina and everyone just listening for now. Well, I'm glad that you are a part of the stream. Again, this is totally different than I normally do, and I do enjoy doing interviews, but one of my guests, actually several of my guests, they're out showing properties today. The one guest I was hoping for, like really hoping for, just could not make it because they did have to go show houses today. And the real estate market doesn't seem to be slowing down as we start into 2021. But in our local area, it doesn't seem that way. And I know in Maryland, it doesn't seem that way. And I know in Texas, it doesn't seem that way. So without further ado, before we do that, I just want to remind you, if you haven't joined yet, you can actually join the Discord. And all you have to do is become a member. I started this when I had 50,000 subscribers. I'm now over 70,000. So I want to thank everybody who has subscribed to the channel. I appreciate every single one of you. And let's start with the first headline, my friend. Let's get into it. I have a new executive producer. Homebuyer loans hits a record. Mortgage applications to purchase a home fell 4% last week, but were 16% higher more than a year ago. The average purchase loan amount hit another record high of $395,200. The average contract interest for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage increased to 2.9% from 2.92% of the previous week. Here's the deal. Anyone got a divorce lawyer? Here's the thing. Eddie, can you scroll up a bit? When it comes to the average house price currently, 392,000, that would be down, Eddie. I need you to scroll up. Okay. When it comes to the average loan purchase amount of $395,200, that's the average. That's a lot of money. And it's because of the fact that people are moving out of their smaller houses and buying bigger houses. So they have a good down payment and they're buying up. But in the meantime, the average house is still going up to the point where it's unaffordable. And I don't know what about the mortgage applications. The going down 4% is actually kind of surprising because the market here seems pretty strong. How is it in your area? Are you seeing a lot of houses go up for sale? Are you seeing more stay on the market a lot longer than you thought that they would? I'm curious. Let's see what else is. Did you take a happy pill, Christina? I'm taking Debbie, you know what it is? I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm taking the nervous pill because I do much better with a guest, and I've been doing this for so long with a guest. I'm having a hard time doing it by myself because it's great to have somebody to feed off of because you can get in a conversation between 2 people. So when you're just by yourself, I feel kinda lost. I'm trying my hardest. But all right, Eddie, go ahead and scroll down so I can read the rest of the article. Debbie says, "We have no inventory here." Here, houses are selling faster than they can be put on the market. We do have some inventory here, but it's not like, it's definitely not we're not where we should be, and it's definitely lower than it was last year at this time. Sharp gains in the housing prices and slight rise in interest combines weakening demand for mortgages last week. The total mortgage application fell 4.1% from the previous week, according to Mortgage Bankers Association's seasonally adjusted index. Homebuyers are seeing prices at its fastest rate in over 6 years. Highly emotional pandemic induced demand for housing butts up against a record low supply of homes for sale, resulting in bidding wars. Mortgage applications to purchase a home fell 4% for the week, but were 16% higher than a year ago. So definitely still way higher than it was even a year ago. And even that was before the pandemic started. The average loan amount for home buyers hits another record high at $395,200. Since hitting the recent low of April 2020, the average purchase loan amount has steadily risen in line with accelerating home price appreciation, according to most of the country, because of the strong demand and extremely low inventories. They're saying they are saying that the inventory might get better with the amount of homes that are going to be available. But they are also saying that they don't expect that the increase in inventory will decrease the prices as much because they are saying that the home builders are having to pay more than they ever have for building materials and for land. So the demand will still be there and the prices will still stay high. Northern Nevada prices are going through the roof. So the average 30-year fixed loans and jumbo balances greater than 510 decreased 3.17 from 3.19. So those jumbo loans are the ones that are over like those are for the really really expensive houses. Um, that kind of surprises me because it does seem that most people that have good income that can afford those expensive houses have a lot of they're wanting to move a lot more, but they probably have so much equity in their other house that they sold that they were not needing those jumbo loans. Applications to refinance a home, which are more sensitive to the daily rates, fell 5% for the week, but were higher, 83% higher annually. That doesn't surprise me. Every mortgage broker I've talked to said they're so busy they don't even have time to breathe. Mortgage rates were 86 basis points higher than a year ago, and the comparison is now shrinking, which could hit a refinancing demand harder in the coming months. If they actually drop the rates, they're even talking about taking the rates to zero. They've been saying that though. There's some they that know everything. They've been saying that, so who knows? In a sign that borrowers are increasing more sensitive to higher rates, large declines in government purchase applications and refinance applications pulled overall activity lower. The refinance index has declined for 2 straight weeks. 2 weeks of no refinancing. I wonder if people are waiting to see if it's actually going to go lower, and that's why they're not refinancing. Or maybe if everybody that had the ability to refinance, they're like, whatever, I'm just going to wait. Oh, and you know what the other reason too could be? They haven't done their taxes yet. That could definitely be it. They haven't got their taxes done and they're going to need they want to know if they're going to meet all the requirements to turn in the paperwork. So that was the first story. that actually had to do with real estate. Debbie said, fired the executive producer. I know, right? Unfortunately, I live with them, so I can't fire them. I'm curious if there's an increase in purchases from non-primary housing. Matthew, I have talked to some investors throughout the country, and they're saying absolutely not. They are not. They're not. It's too high. It's too high for them to invest right now. They're not going to do it. But then I've spoken to other investors, the smaller ones, that are willing to cash out their 401ks, and that's what they're talking about. They're cashing out their 401ks, taking all that money and that capital gains tax that they would have, going ahead and buying investment properties for rentals. So it depends on the investor. I think the large investors that would buy like groups of housing at one time are saying, nope, it's too high. I'm going to wait it out. And then the smaller investors are like, I don't want my money to be in the stock market anymore. I'm going to pull out my 401k that's sitting there barely doing anything. And they're willing to jump in and buy some rental units. The ones that they're looking at are mixed use property. I talked to somebody on Friday, and he's looking for a mixed use property. That's something that he could use for either retail or residential, or they're looking for duplexes, something that where he could live on one side and the other side could be rented. So it just depends on the person that you're talking to, the type of investor you're speaking to. That can all change. Yeah, Debbie says, smash it. Christine, I'm seeing a slowdown. Property asking prices have doubled. How long till the government comes around and asks for double taxes for assessed value, and if this holds? Your tax rates go up, as the home prices go up, and that will depend on your state on how much that will go up. They may have a law that says it only can go up 7% or something like that per year, or that you can't increase. Like if you were paying $1,000. Well, I mean, here in Louisiana, it can't be that way, but you may want to check with your state laws on how much your property taxes can increase by each year. To see when you're going to see that. But I know my property taxes go up every single year. Like this last year, it wasn't even as bad this year, but it seemed like the year before it went up like almost $700. I was like, oh my God, it was crazy. And then, because this one's homesteaded, so you get a tax deduction with the homestead. But then our rental properties were exact same price as our actual living residence. And I'm like, man, it's crazy. What are you listening to in your headphones? I have no idea. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. This is trading. Okay, so I'm so used to having a guest on that I have to hear talk that I have these headphones on. There's no reason why I need these on. Absolutely none. I guess maybe it was like a security blanket. Oh my God. Whatever. I'm trying my best. In Asheville, in the county Asheville, there is no houses for sale. Are you in Asheville, North Carolina? I have to tell you, that is like my all-time dream place to live. I love Asheville so much. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. She's officially lost it. All right, go ahead and do the next story, producer. Throw it up there for us. This one might be a good one. There's one I picked out that is very scandalous. Oh, here we go. Oh, this is it. This is the one. You guys might know her. Her name is Jenna Ryan, the North Texas real estate broker. Jenna Ryan, stop moving it, Eddie. One of at least 150 people facing criminal charges in the January 6th Capitol riot, is still online seeking donations to help cover her legal defense, despite being booted off 3 online funding services and ensuing a Twitter message saying she doesn't need the money. I'm not a desperado over here. It's not like I can't make my own attorney fees, she told the Observer earlier this week. I will have to work extra hard to do so. Her defense attorneys might have to work a little extra hard too. Earlier this month, the Justice Department filed two federal charges against her. On Tuesday, it fil- uh, it filed two more violent entry disorderly conduct in the Capitol building, parading and demonstrating or picketing in the Capitol building, according to court documents. So the whole thing with Jenna Ryan is, I'm not saying anything one way or the other. What she did for what reason, it doesn't matter. So the behind the scenes that people talk about as a real estate agent, they're like, she should lose her job. And when you're a real estate agent, you are an independent contractor, and you can't, I mean, your employer can fire you, but you can't lose your real estate license because it doesn't break necessarily the code of ethics. I'm sure somebody out there probably could find some specific thing that said that she broke some code of ethics, but she wasn't working as a capacity as a real estate agent. So nothing that she's done in this situation, whatever it may be, would cause her to lose her license. But if she is convicted of whatever they're accusing her of, there was four crimes here because they added an extra two. If she is convicted, she could possibly lose her license, because you can't be a felon and be a realtor. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. Oh, look, this is a nice message. You are one of the few people who actually has sensible take on the housing market. Sometimes I do. A lot of real estate agents, I was actually told on a live stream, they said it jokingly, but with every joke, there's a little bit of truth to it. I was told on a live stream, they're like, "Oh, look, it's Kristina Smallhorn, the drama queen of real estate." I was like, "Oh," and my video starts out. My video starts out for Tuesday and talking about how people, other real estate agents, are kind of calling me that, but when you have lived through a housing crisis in the past, you have a tendency to see the writing on the wall ahead of time. And so some people may say I'm overreacting, but other people who've been through it, and I've talked to a few other real estate agents across the country, they have flat out said, "Yeah, you're right. I'm seeing the same thing because they started when I started." So what do you guys think about Jenna Ryan? She's been on, I'm not gonna lie, she's on TikTok too. She's on TikTok too, because my husband showed me, he's like, "Oh, look, it's Jenna Ryan. She's on TikTok." I'm like, "What is she gonna talk about on TikTok?" And she didn't talk barely anything about real estate, other than that she was going to a showing. And then she was talking about the kind of organic food she should be eating, which is really strange. This one's interesting. Felons, public trust wouldn't hire her to sell a doghouse. Debbie, you're entitled to your opinion. The real estate drama queen, that's boss. I know. Maybe I am the real estate drama queen. If Jenna loses her license, then BLM and antics should go to jail. Freaking double standard. Well, if you in a way, you're right, Debbie. So if you think about it this way, if someone was a BLM protester and they were caught on camera looting something or setting something on fire, there shouldn't be any difference than anybody else. That hasn't hit the headlines. I'm not saying that hasn't happened. I'm sure if, we would hear it if there was, but I think that anytime you participate in crime, whatever the crime may be, it doesn't matter. And you participate in crime, you need to face the consequences, period, end. Whether it would be for a protest for BLM, women's rights, this last incident at the Capitol, you have to face the consequences. You don't get a special treatment because of one situation or another. All right, question. When Dave Ramsey recommends your mortgage be less than 25% of home income, does that mean just the principal or just principal or interest, or principal, interest, property taxes, insurance, and PMI? I don't watch Dave Ramsey too often, but if I was telling you, I would say you want your principal, your interest, your property taxes, your insurance, and your PMI. You want to know everything, 25%. You also want to, as nice and as well educated as Dave Ramsey is, you want to speak to your own personal finance financial advisor, you're going to want to talk to them. Um, like as much as we're experts behind a screen, we can't see your numbers face to face. So you're going to want to get with somebody locally that can sit you down and you look at your numbers one line at a time. Why is your husband looking at real estate agents on TikTok? Well, I'm a lot to handle. I'm not going to lie. I don't really blame the guy. Brandy said, Debbie says, anyone committing a felony should be prosecuted, period. I agree. I don't care what your crime is. If you've committed a felony, whatever you're representing does not matter. You've committed a felony and you should face the consequences. All right, Eddie, let's throw up the next thing. I think this one is a fun one too, if you can find it. Eddie's learning. Bless his heart. Oh, look, do I have food on my face? Huh. That's a beautiful house. Can we scroll down just a scotch? What is this? Oh, all right. So this is I wasn't even going to post this. This was so crazy to me. They keep going on and on and on about the Hamptons booming amid COVID. And then I talked to an investor and he said that even in Boston, a lot of people are moving out of the city of Boston and moving to Cape Cod. So let's read the article. In just 3 months from October to December, people snapped up eye-popping $2.159 billion worth of property on the East End with the sale of 844 homes. That's up 133% from the last quarter in 2019, when folks spent $924.82 million on 503 homes, according to the new market from Corcoran. My dyslexic butt can't read. But so my friend that lives on the Cape said that all these people are leaving Boston as well, and they're deciding to either move to the Hamptons or over to the Cape. He said they're going to be in for a really rude awakening because all of this sounds really great now, and but they're starting to realize that during the wintertime, places like the Hamptons and places like the Cape, they have it's seasonal. So it wouldn't matter if there was a pandemic or not. They shut down. Like they know that like for 6 months out of the year or 7 months out of the year, they're not open. They're only open in the summertime. So over Christmas, they're like, we wanted to get those bagels down there. And they're like, no, it's closed. They're like, oh, is that because of the, the pandemic? No, it has nothing to do with it. That's when they close. So they're in for a rude awakening. Most of these people, they'll probably do that HelloFresh where they get their food just mailed in. It probably has like special airplanes that bring in all their food. Oh, look, Colleen said, yeah, same thing happened after 9/11. I did not know that, Colleen. Yeah, I bet you they're in for a rude awakening. Like they're like, man, that sounded really great to leave New York, but there's no great salad place. Of course, people are fleeing the cities for densely populated areas, especially if post-COVID work remains the primarily remote. Debbie, you know what I just did a video last Tuesday, and because a lot of these shopping centers are vacant, and the biggest crisis we have, just like we had in the other article, like affordable housing, the average cost is $395,000. The average American can't afford the average price of a home. But what if you took all those vacant commercial buildings and turned them into affordable housing options? Where not like a free handout or anything like that, or not even an apartment, but turn them into condos where people could get a mortgage and own a piece of real estate, especially for young millennials who are having the hardest time, and people that are fixing to retire. Did I just say fixing? I sure did. They're just about to retire. They're having the hardest time finding an affordable housing option. So I think I think every city should do this, is churn like old shopping malls, like like we have big malls here that are completely empty with all that parking and everything. turn those into condos, and they could do the same for any old commercial building. All they have to do is change the zoning, and it would be really good for the environment too, because you wouldn't need as much building materials to put it together. It's already plumbed. I mean, it's perfect. I don't understand why it's like a thing, but we'll see, because the commercial housing, the commercial markets are going to take a big hit hitting into the end of 2021 and into 2022. All right. Question: do you think with ongoing pandemic and at the rate of infection growing, can you see the market getting worse this year? I think it's going to get the worst of as far as increase in price. I know that you're in England, so I don't know how it works there, but here in the United States, they've decided to kick the can down the road just a little bit more, and they've extended the ability for people to have a forbearance. Now, I've been getting comments and emails from people saying they're having trouble with their mortgage companies when it comes to forbearance. One company's been telling them that they are due the whole amount that they have missed in the beginning of March. And they've been fighting with them saying, oh, no, 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 it's not due at the end of March. Like you're going to have to tack it back to the end of my mortgage. And the mortgage company is saying, oh no, we've never done that. That's not what we do. And he's like, according to the CARES Act, that's what you do. And he does have an FHA loan. He's been fighting with them back and forth, and he even got in touch with FHA to straighten it all out. But having to do all that just to get that was given to you by our government, which was be able to get forbearance and put it at the end of your mortgage, and then have to, do piles of paperwork. It was not supposed to do that. And I've only heard that in a very few situations. This is the first time I actually heard it with an FHA loan, but I have heard it with conventional loans, and they do not have to follow those policies. They're actually doing it as a courtesy. Some of them are asking for a balloon payment, meaning that at the end of the forbearance, you have to come up with the whole amount of money. But a lot of them are just opting to put them at the end of the mortgage. So let's just see how long they're going to allow people to kick that can down the road. I don't know. But the rental moratorium is going ahead too. And I think the problem with the rental moratorium is the people that own rental units. They most of them have to pay a mortgage, So how long are you going to keep letting them go? Well, yeah, renters, you don't have to pay your rent. You can go keep that going. But people that own those buildings have to pay the bank, and you don't get some kind of moratorium for that. So I think we're in a world of hurt, especially for the small time investors. All right, question. Do you think the mortgage moratorium will end? I want to buy, but it is so confusing if I should wait. Colleen, I would really speak with your local real estate agent and get their opinion, because everybody's micro real estate market is going to be completely different. If you had the money and you had, the rates are super good and there's availability of homes in your area, then yeah, go ahead and buy. But if it's really tight, you're going to be in bidding wars for days. It doesn't seem like there's anything in your price range. Everything you look at is not what you want. Then I would wait. But if you wait, then that means that the interest rates have a possibility of going up. So you're just going to have to speak with your local real estate agent and get their best advice for your little micro real estate market, because everybody's market's going to be a little bit different. York says, me and my girlfriend are thinking of moving to Cambridge, Massachusetts. Massachusetts is my old stomping ground. To North Carolina and buying a manufactured home, all cash, $150,000 budget. Is that too low of a budget? To North Carolina. Oh, I don't know what part of North Carolina. Yes, you can get, because my friend lives near Myrtle Beach. You can get a manufactured home near Myrtle Beach for $150,000. I don't know what part of North Carolina you're thinking about moving to, but that should cover you definitely to get a manufactured home on a piece of property. Another super chat. Matthew says, thanks for your videos. What do you think about buying in North Virginia? People are only homeless due to greed. I live the way you think. Thanks. I maybe meant like the way you think. I don't know much about Northern Virginia. Maybe I should get I should get a real estate agent in here from Northern Virginia. I'm going to actually write that down, Matthew, because that is one area of the country I have not. I've had California, I've had Maryland, I've had Florida, I've had Texas, but I've never had Virginia. So that will be. I have tons of friends in my real estate group that I have with over 3,000 agents, and I will get a Virginia real estate agent to come on here. I'm writing it down right now so I don't forget because my mind sometimes likes a Swiss cheese. All right, the Booban, the Booban, the Booban. I want to buy a property to rent out. Should I buy big land with 3 mobile homes on it, or an apartment in a tourist area to Airbnb it? Well, Airbnbs are doing not so great. If you can have those apartment buildings in a tourist area that you can rent out, I mean, you got to remember it's seasonal. I mean, how seasonal it's going to be. You're going to have to talk to somebody and see how well those manufactured homes with those 3 mobile homes rent out as well. I love a rental home, like to own rental properties that are manufactured homes. They rent great, but I don't know how your area does as far as manufactured homes as rentals. I need the bubble to burst. I feel bad for wanting it to happen. Tanya, you're not the only one. I mean, honest to God, there are so many people that are like, this is ridiculous. And even with my home buyers, they're looking at houses that I'm like, this house shouldn't be any more than $200,000. At the max 210, and they're paying 232 for it. And I'm in a little town outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I'm thinking, how can this sustain itself? There's just no way, because I know what incomes are here in our area. And I feel like especially young people are stretching their budget so far. It's making me nervous. It's making me nervous that we're in for a world of hurt for a lot of people, because I don't want people to overpay for a property. I don't want people to lose money on a property, because what happens is that when they do overpay, sure enough, they have to move 5 years from now. And then they've bought this house and they're like, well, we bought it for 235. How come you're telling me it's only worth 235 after 5 years? Well, you bought at the height of the market, and that's what happens. And, I'm not laughing at them. It's an unfortunate situation, and it really stinks. And I hate when it goes down lower than what they purchased the house for. That's a hard conversation to have with somebody, especially when they're just trying to move on with their lives. And then they have to come out of pocket with money out of their own income just to sell their own house because they had to move in a couple of years and the housing market went down. I've had people that actually had to cash some of their 401k out or borrow money from their parents just to close on the house they're trying to move out of. It stinks. It stinks. And then in 2008, 9, 10, maybe even the beginning of 2011, there were so many short sales. And we had a double duty here because people were buying houses after Katrina. So they were buying them way over list. The interest rates were low. So there was a housing boom. And then there was a lot of those no interest, low interest, crappy loans out there. So we had a little snowball effect of raising house prices and dropping house prices. All right, here we go. Here in Southwest Florida, the market is still hot. They're building new communities left and right. Still not enough for affordable housing nor apartments. That's the thing though. I hope that some smart real estate developer gets with the, county and city officials and says, look, you've got all these commercial properties that are sitting here vacant. Nobody's going to be rushing back to work in an office. Many offices are saying that they still have just as much, if not more, productivity from their employees, and they don't have the liability of having to pay the insurances that they did with all the employees in there, less on security, less on lighting. So they're opting for their employees to just go ahead and stay working from home. This is going to be their new business model. So with that, it's going to have a lot more commercial buildings. They're going to end up vacant. And if a smart real estate developer would get with your local and city officials to turn some of these commercial properties into rental properties, residential rental properties, they can make a mint. They could save a lot of, nothing that looks worse than having a bunch of empty buildings around. That can make a city look terrible. Uh, what they call that when people had urban sprawl and then the cities look terrible. Do you know anything about how the Las Vegas real estate market is? I heard it's healthy but not overpriced. That's from one real estate agent I spoke to in Las Vegas. They said that you can still find affordable housing options in Las Vegas, which is good. It's healthy. It's like it's definitely busy, but it's not unheard of to find a house. You don't have to go crazy. Excuse me. A little dry, a little parched. If anyone wants to know what's in my cup, it's hot tea. That's the only thing I ever drink. Luckily, I found a reasonably priced home 5 years ago. Otherwise, I might have moved last year. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not moving. I mean, I thought about it because I was like, oh my gosh, we make the most money at what we could ever make on this house. And then I was like, yeah, but then we're going to move to. Then we're going to have to spend the most money we've ever spent on a piece of property. What do you think of HOAs? So I used to hate them. Honestly, I used to think, oh man, those HOAs. And there are some terrible HOAs that the people that sit on those boards, they have nothing better to do than to pick on their neighbors for every ridiculous thing, like a paint chip or a missing blade of grass. But I've learned to appreciate an HOA when I moved into a neighborhood that was supposed to have established an HOA and did not. And sure enough, it didn't take long before people were parking their cars on the lawn. Right next door, there were 6 cars on these people's lawn. And then they had boats sitting out and on the street. And then you couldn't even have your kids ride their bikes because you couldn't see them because there were so many cars out on the street. And like people would leave their trash cans sitting outside and they'd be out there for 4 or 5 days, and God forbid you touch their trash can and moved it towards their garage. They'd be like, oh, you're touching my property. HOAs have their place. They can be terrible, they can be awful, but they can also be extremely beneficial. I think if you're out in the country who wants an HOA, you don't need it. Jason says, do you really think the bubble will burst at mortgage rates so low? My friend got a 15-year fixed at 1.79. It's not that. It has nothing to do with the mortgage rates causing the bubble or the busting of the bubble. The mortgage rates are what's keeping the housing market flowing like crazy. It's the fact that there is still a bunch of people that don't have a job, and the jobless numbers keep continuing. And they have a high rate of people that just basically stopped looking for a job. So they're not even counted as the jobless on the jobless report. They just, they just checked out. They've been unemployed for so long now, they're no longer on that board. A lot of people have gone down to one income and have taken the mortgage forbearance. So, and then that number was going down and now it's increasing again. It seems that more people are starting to take that forbearance. How long are they going to allow the forbearance is the question. And that's what's holding back any kind of foreclosures to happen, because you can't foreclose on a house right now. And the mortgage companies are allowing people to take those payments that they should be paying right now if they've been in distress because of the pandemic and putting it to the end, and just don't know how to be able to kick that can down the road. There's escrows that need to be paid. Banks don't like paying their own money, and a lot of them have been covering the escrows for people. The shortages, they don't like doing that. And at some point, the government's going to have to say, okay, no more moratoriums. You're going to have to start paying. And if you don't have a job, how can you pay? you know, that's where it is. Kristina, do you think it's better to wait for interest rates to increase to buy a house because the prices will decrease? It's like you're playing one off of the other. So you can have low interest rates and high housing prices, or you can have low housing prices and high interest rates. Which one do you want to pay more? Do you want to pay more to the bank, or do you want to pay more for the property? You're going to have to weigh that out. Again, that's one of those things you're going to have to speak with your financial advisor on this, and you're going to have to speak with a local real estate agent and see if it's a good time to buy in your area. See if you can find some good deals. All right. If there's a closing cost, if I purchase a manufactured home cash, there's always going to be closing costs when associated to buying any piece of property, whether it's a piece of land, manufactured home, a well, it doesn't matter. If it's a piece of dirt, you're going to have some closing costs associated with it. And you're going to have some title fees. So whenever you make an offer on a piece of property, you can find out what the closing costs are from the title company if you're not working with a real estate agent. Thanks for your thoughts. My question, the place I thought of was Charleston, South Carolina. I also think housing market will is like stock. Many are getting rich, but many more are getting poor. Um, this is one of the things I've talked about this before. I think one of the saddest parts of this whole situation is people that do own manufactured homes that are in a manufactured home park or mobile home park, whatever you want to call it, because they rent the land that's underneath their home. So they're renting the land, and they have a mortgage on their manufactured home that's called a chattel loan, which is different than a traditional mortgage. And so when they had the mortgage moratoriums or the forbearance or whatever you want to call it, that did not include chattel loans. So those people had to continuously pay. They did not get a reprieve from anything if they were out of work, and it didn't cover the lot rents for their manufactured homes. These are the same people. They're most likely living paycheck to paycheck, and they're the people that are most likely to have lost their jobs during this pandemic, at least one family member. So those are the people that are really struggling, and those are the people that are probably going to be losing their homes the highest number, I predict. There's nothing written in paper, but the way I look at it, I think those are the people who are going to be suffering the most in a year or two from now. I don't think they're going to have the ability to keep their homes. So that's what breaks my heart. I mean, like, honestly, I'm like, God, these poor people, it kills my soul that they're doing this to them. Okay, here we go. We got another question. Is it best to rent for a year in a new area before buying, or is it better to buy from 1,000 miles away when moving? Warren, if I had the ability to rent a house for a good year just to get a good feel for the place, I would do it. The only reason I didn't do this because I didn't want to have to move my kids around, because they were doing different school districts. But if it was just Eddie and I and we were feeling out the area to see where we really wanted to live, I would do that 100%. Yep, that's a great idea. That is a great idea. All right, Eddie, you want to throw up another article? Because go ahead. Eddie's got the coffees. Just having a girlfriend that's a real estate agent. Hmm. All right. Oh, this was the funniest thing. So everybody's seen this meme, this meme of Bernie Sanders. So this real estate agent got clever, and she did Bernie Sanders in the windows of all like of her listing photographs. She put if you can see him, like he's like right there behind the sliding glass door. I thought that was so smart, such clever marketing because everybody knows who Bernie is, and there he is, just grumpy, just sitting in the snow, staring at, waiting for everything to be done. So funny. Matthew says the numbers don't lie. Liars use numbers. The market is completely jacked up. I personally think we should colonize the ocean. How about a houseboat? There's so many available properties that are sitting there vacant right now. We don't have to colonize the ocean. I mean, there are vacant properties available now. Just make it so people can live in them. Why don't we do that? Lauren says, thank you. You are very welcome. All right. Throw up something else, Mr. Producer. Make it happen. 2021. My insanely large teacup. All right. Zillow fixes glitch that caused some real estate agents' sales to disappear. Go ahead and scroll on down the other way, Eddie. That's up. You want to scroll down? Are you moving it? Oh my gosh, he shoved it. Eddie, I can't see. Just scroll it up just a top, just a scotch. He's so fired from this job. Can you scroll it up just a scotch, babe? Just a little bit so I can read the top of the article. Oh my God, that's down. That's down. That's all right. In real estate business, word of mouth is good reviews goes a long way. Some real estate agents were surprised and concerned when the data, like their listings, sales history, recently disappeared from the popular real estate website. Zillow over the weekend. Oh my gosh, stop moving it, please. Zillow over the weekend. Zillow shows property listings from around the country and has grown into a major force in the industry. It says it's the most visited real estate website in the U.S. with more than 200 million visitors each month. All right, Eddie, you can take it off of there. Okay, so here's the deal with Zillow. They have not been reporting sales for my listings in more than just this year, but it became a big problem for real estate agents. And because they depend on that as a reference for people as they're scrolling through Zillow. But the Zillow is notorious for giving bad information, whether it comes from their Zestimates, which is it's a guess on how much your house is worth, to how many sales a real estate agent has had. So if you're evaluating a real estate agent by the amount of sales they have, I wouldn't go by that. I wouldn't mark that in stone on what you see on Zillow ever. I think it says that I sold one house. And it's never been right. It's never been right. But I haven't shared, I don't share my information on Zillow because I want people to call me. I don't want them to call other real estate agents on Zillow because they don't know the properties that I have for sale. So I'm the one who understands what I have for sale, not Zillow, and not some agent that happens to get the lead, because that's what real estate agents do. They buy ad space so they could be the first agent on the top of that listing. So when you go to call about that listing, you think that you're talking to the person that has the house listed that knows the sellers, but that's not the case. You're talking to someone that bought that space at the very top, and they know nothing about the house other than what they're reading on the MLS, which is the same thing you're reading on Zillow. And they'll say, well, I don't know much, but why don't we go ahead and take a look at that house? So if you want some more like accurate information about a real estate agent, word of mouth is the best thing. And call the real estate agent, give them an interview, ask them a bunch of questions. How long have you been doing real estate? How many sales have you had recently? What do you do for your clients that's different than any other real estate agent on the planet? What are you doing to advertise your listings? Ask them those kinds of questions just to get a good feel if they're a good fit for you. So don't depend on Zillow. Let's see, a lot of laughs, a lot of vacant properties. Just no one has a job to rent and pay. Well, some people do though. Some people do. And there's people that I'm like, you can see in this chat on my videos, people are looking for something to buy. There's people that are retired, that are looking for places to rent something small so they can rent that little space and be able to travel and go somewhere else. There's first-time home buyers. They haven't lost their job. They have, a down payment. They'd like to be able to buy a home, but homes are so expensive they can't purchase one. I'm not saying the whole world is out of a job right now, but there's a lot of people that are out of work that we're waiting. There's a lot of investors that are waiting to see what's going to happen with that, hoping because they're investors that there's going to be a foreclosure market so they can buy some more investment properties. Kristina, how are lenders assessing property value so people are not completely upside down or mortgage if the market changes? Is there a percentage they use? Lenders don't assess the property. Appraisers assess the property, and they just go by what homes have been selling for in that area in the last 6 months. The lenders don't assess that value. Now, if the market goes down and it goes down exponentially, you can do something called a short sale, and that what happens then. So this is what happened in 2007, 2008. I sold my house. It was $235,000. 6 months later, it was $200,000. 6 months after that, it was 180,000. So he went to his bank and he went to his bank and said, "Look, I bought this for 235,000. I would like to reassess my home mortgage." And since there wasn't a lot of buyers out there at the time and the guy did have good credit, they went ahead and let him remortgage his house for less. And some mortgage companies will say, well, you can take a separate loan out for the shortage or the difference, or we'll forgive it. Well, there were so many foreclosures in Florida, they forgave that amount of money because they'd rather have somebody living in that house and not walking away from the property than having to put it up for sale, because there was a lot of foreclosed homes. So that's something that will change between all your different lenders. Zillow is like Carfax. The data is not accurate, right? It was inaccurate. Correct. Matthew says, what are your thoughts on Veterans United? I don't have any thoughts on that right now. I'll have to check into that. I know the name, but I'm really bad unless as soon as I start reading the story, then I'm like, oh, I know exactly what that is. What is the most homes you've had to show a buyer before they picked one? 38 houses. And they're still good friends of mine. Matter of fact, they even watched my children at one point. Jim and Connie Major, I love them to pieces. The nicest people on the planet. Thank God they were so nice. Because I enjoyed being with them, but they would kept going and kept looking for houses and kept looking for houses. But I extremely empathized with them because of the fact, I think it even might have been more than 38 houses. I'll have to ask them how many it was, but I remember at one point I counted the sheet, it was 38, but they were looking for a home that once her husband retired from his job, they were going to stay in that home until the day they died. And they wanted it to be a place where they could bring their grandkids to, like it would be a fun place their grandkids could come to. And they wanted a nice, safe place with a big yard. And so I didn't mind it. They were so nice. Yeah, 38. Yeah, the market here in Charleston is on fire. November, I went to a new builder that said they were about 2 to 3 years out from completion. Went yesterday and there are only 6 houses left. 6 houses. Yeah, I know. And they probably haven't gone down in price because the building materials and land have gone up in price. So it's not that the builders are really trying to stick it to you. Of course they want to make more money, but their cost to build has gone up a lot too. So they're going to have to pass that along somehow. 6 months is extremely short period of time. 6 months is an extremely short period of time when you're issuing 30-year loans. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, this could be different in a lender's mind too, because say this person, didn't have a job and they took the forbearance for, let's just say 6 months. So they already had added 6 months to their loan at the back end. And let's just say their area has gone down $20,000 and they're negotiating that. And what are the lenders looking at them going, look, you lost your job for 6 months. You didn't pay us for 6 months. I'm sorry that the area went down a lot, but we're not taking another $20,000 off your house when you haven't even paid us for 6 months. I mean, you kind of have to see it on both sides. It's going to be interesting. There's so many different factors that are the housing market is going to be a mess. I'm telling you. You did an excellent video on manufactured homes. I like them. I always say that for real estate agents, for some reason, they're like the redhead stepchild of housing. I have a hard time finding other real estate agents that will work with people that are interested in manufactured homes that are attached to land. Now, I'm lucky because I've created a group of real estate agents that are from all over the country that will work with any, it doesn't matter what your budget is. But occasionally I'll come across one that isn't in my group and I have to find one. And sometimes it takes me a while to get back to somebody that asks me to find them a real estate agent that will help them find a manufactured home, because I'm trying to find a real estate agent that will do it, because they'll be like, no, it's not enough money, which makes me vomit. Vomit makes me so angry. Understanding that many financial experts see one of two scenarios: inflation versus deflation. Any ideas for strategies based on both outcomes? Not sure if this is something you can comment on. Um, Understanding financial experts on two scenarios: inflation versus deflation. Any ideas for strategies based on both outcomes? I need to make a whole video about that. That isn't just like, hey, you know what? This is inflation versus deflation, and this is how you should invest. I mean, are you an investor? Are you a first-time home buyer? Are you a seller? Like the scenario is going to be different for your from your perspective. What do you think? What do you think about selling a co co selling a co-op in co-op in New York City? What do you think about selling a co-op now in New York City? Like a cooperative, like if you have a cooperative building, or are you thinking about forming a cooperative? I know that, like, my brother who lives in New York, he said that the apartment buildings are vacating at record levels. There's a lot of vacant apartments around New York City right now. But you'd think that the prices would still like start coming down. They still haven't come down yet. So I don't know why they're not coming down in price. A co-op, if I could get a co-op, a building or a part of a co-op, I don't, if I was an investor, I would not invest in a co-op. That's just me personally. Because I don't want the residents to have control of what goes on in that building or property itself. Thoughts in 3D printed homes. Okay, Matthew, here it is. They're not ready yet. As much as I love a 3D printed home, because of the fact that they're 3D printing homes. So the printer itself sits on a machine, right? And it has to maintain that level to pour the concrete. Anything that happens to make that machine just move just a smidgen, the pour itself, the cement pour, changes. Think of it like a piece of paper in a printer. So you're putting it in and it's perfectly level like this. And say it goes off like this. Then your words are going down in a different direction. And that whole piece of paper looks weird. All that writing looks weird. That's the same for a 3D printed house. They're not quite there yet as far as getting that perfected, because like I said, the slightest thing goes off, the whole house looks funky. But they're getting better. The material itself that they use to pour it is a lot lighter than traditional cement. It's a very durable. The other problem that they have come up with is, you have to put wiring behind the walls. So they're coming up with these like foam pieces of foam that go between the concrete. So when they're pouring it, that way the wires can go through easily. But you won't be able to rewire really easily if you have a concrete house. I think they're really good for affordable housing options. I think it's a good starter home, but they got a long way to go to make a 4,000 square foot house out of a 3D printed, unless they do every single wall, window, everything 3D printed. It's a very cool concept. It's come a long way. I just don't think it's quite ready yet. What goes up must come down. It's just a matter of time. Low income co-op. You would have to I would talk to your local area, see how they are, because every area is going to have a little bit different rules when it comes to co-ops. Each city has a different rules when who owns them, what they're responsible for. I would find out what your liability is for New York City owning a co-op. How hard is it to evict people if they're not paying what they should be paying? That, definitely get with your local real estate agent to find out what their co-op rules are in your city. Yeah, get land, and you get create operating business from. All right. Thank you. All right, Eddie, throw up the next story, please. Mr. Cough. I don't know if you guys can hear him. He's Mr. Sir Coughs a lot. He already had COVID. He shouldn't be coughing anymore. Should be against the rules. Let's get day thinker off there here. Oh, here we go. Hold on. This should be interesting. Marisha Fudge vows to end discrimination as HUD secretary. And can you expand that up just a little bit, because the words are going to be very small, just below the just scoop it out just a little bit so we can read it. Martha Fudge, President Biden's nominee for Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, on Thursday vowed to end discrimination in housing should her nomination be approved by the U.S. Senate. During her testimony to the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs on Thursday, Fudge said part of her priorities for HUD will require us to end discriminatory practices in the housing market and ensure that fair housing rules are doing what they are supposed to do, opening the door for families, especially families of color, who have been systematically kept out in the cold across generations, to buy homes and punch their ticket in the middle class. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know who ran the housing and urban development prior to Miss Fudge here. It was Ben Carson. And Ben Carson was a doctor and really had absolutely no idea what he was doing when it came to housing and urban development. I don't think he did anything, though, that I would have considered against any housing discrimination kind of things. Now, there was some policies that were talked about that never went through, which was they were trying to say that you couldn't put low income housing in some suburban areas and stuff like that. But nothing ever came to fruition. But that was under Mr. Ben Carson. I'll be interested to see what she does. Because I know as real estate agents, we're 100% not allowed to do any of that. And one of the things that they've also changed recently, too, is the Board of Real Estate, National Association of Realtors, will no longer allow you to, I don't know if you heard of the love letters, like when somebody says, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, I really do love your house, and this would be great for our 3 children. We go to the local church around the corner, and the National Association of Realtors have said that those letters can be taken out of context and cause a discriminatory practice. So no more love letters. And it used to be something I would encourage my buyers, especially in this very turbulent market, to do to try to get their offer accepted, but they're no longer allowed. So you can get yourself in trouble for doing that. That's against discriminatory practices. Wow, tons of knowledge. Thank you, first time. Nice answer. Tell me something, someone vows to end discrimination. They're actually saying they're going to discriminate for select people. Her name is Fudge. Did I say it wrong? Did I say Fudge or Fruge? Did I say it wrong? I'm not, this is 100% the truth. I am very dyslexic. And in order for me to cover up myself when I'm reading out loud, I will read as fast as possible to cover up any kind of words I mispronounce. It's one of those things I'm admitting to it out loud to you guys, because I've done this since I was a little girl, because I didn't want people to think that I was dumb. So I'd almost make up a word as I was reading it. So, and most people didn't catch it because I would read it so fast and they'd be like, oh, and I just kept moving along. It wasn't until I was in high school, somebody was like, Kristina, come here. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, what is this? I'm like, hold on. Let me look at it for a minute. Then I'd spell it out. Oh, here it is. She's like, yeah, you kept doing that throughout the whole entire reading of that passage. I'm like, yeah, well, we got to do things to cope, Oh, so somebody's me. I'm saying smash the like button. Smash the like button. Well, I want to tell everybody, thank you so much for letting me do something completely different. Normally on these days on Sunday, I spend the day with you with another real estate agent from another part of the country. And that didn't happen this week. So instead of canceling it, like I probably wanted to do, I decided to come up with something very quickly, which is coming up with showing you some of the highlights and headlines that are happening in real estate today, as well as answering a lot of your questions about real estate. If you're watching this on the replay, make sure you put your questions below this video. And if you need to, you can reach out to me personally. My email is info@KristinaSmallhorn.com. Everybody, I hope you have a fantastic Sunday. Eddie wants to remind you to join the the Discord group. And if you become a channel member, you get a really cool icon by your name during live streams. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. See you later, taters. Oops, I didn't push the button.